Hello, everyone, and welcome to Bookercast, the podcast where books come to life.
And I'm so excited to dive into another amazing story with all of you.
Whether you're a bookworm or just love a good story, this is the place for you.
Every episode, we explore incredible books, talk about their stories and characters, and share insights that'll make you fall in love with reading all over again.
All right, let's not keep you waiting any longer. Get comfortable, and let's jump right into it.
Sounds good.
All right, ready to unpack The Way of Kings. I'm excited to dive into this one with you. It's a big one, and you've sent over some interesting stuff, articles, notes, you name it. Looks like we're going to Roshar, this crazy world with crazy high storms and these really distinct cultures. From war and honor on the Shattered Plains to the mysteries of the Knights Radiant, there is a lot to unpack.
Yeah. The Way of Kings is the perfect place to start. It's the foundation of Sanderson's Stormlight Archive, which really expands on what we know as epic fantasy. He uses magic and prophecy, those familiar elements, but grounds it in a world that feels very real, with complex societies and even unique ecology.
Definitely more than just your typical swords and sorcery. And one character that really stood out to me was Zeth, the assassin in white. His lashings, way he can just change gravity to move. It's like super-powered parkour. And he's also got this tragic element to him, forced to do these terrible things.
Seth really embodies the moral questions that Sanderson brings up. Here's this character with amazing power, but he's bound by an oath he doesn't really understand, used as a tool for someone else's goals. His internal struggle, his issues with what he is doing, it really makes you think about choice and the results of just doing what you're told.
Like a puppet with a conscience. And what about that sharp blade? It's supposed to be a holy relic used to fight otherworldly beings. But in the story, it's being used for political assassinations.
It shows the missing legacy of the Knights Radiant. You know, the legendary warriors who vanished hundreds of years ago, leaving a hole in Roshar, and seeing their weapons misused. It speaks to a deeper problem, a twisting of what they were meant for. It makes you think, what happened to them? What happens to Roshar if they ever come back?
Ooh, good questions. Okay, so let's talk about Kaladin. He's a slave, right? A bridgeman. And forced to run across a battlefield, carrying these huge bridges while under attack. Even the bridge runs seem to represent Kaladin's problems.
You're right. Those bridge runs are rough. They show the huge challenges that Kaladin faces. Each run is like playing with death, and it wears down the bridgemen. Not just their bodies, but their spirits, too. It really shows how war can dehumanize people, and that people can be crushed by systems that are against them.
And you think, how much can one person take before they break? But Kaladin finds this strength. He's so protective of the other bridgemen, even risking his life to save them, defying Gaz, that cruel bridge sergeant. I felt that. It made me think of standing up to bullies, even when it feels impossible.
That's a key moment for Kaladin. He could have given up, accepted being a powerless slave, but something inside him won't let him quit. He won't let others suffer. That spark of defiance, that need to protect people weaker than himself, that's what makes him a leader. That's what starts him on the road to becoming something more.
Gives me chills. Okay, let's shift to Shallan. Young woman, a hidden past, and she's an amazing artist. She makes these illusions, totally realistic ones. She comes up with this crazy plan to become the ward of Jasna Kholin, this powerful Elithite princess, all to steal something valuable. I was trying to figure out what she was up to the whole time.
Shallan is so good at deception, at changing how people see her. She uses her art, her illusions to make the persona she needs. But under all that, she's hurting. She's haunted by her past, trying to hide it. Her story in the book is about facing that past and learning to balance her illusions with real connections.
Makes you wonder how much of her is real and how much is an act. What about her relationship with Jasna, who's brilliant, but also kind of cold, even scary? Definitely not like a sweet mentor. How did you see that dynamic?
That relationship is fascinating. At first, Shallan sees Jasna as a target, a way to get what she wants. But as they spend time together, Shallan starts to see the cracks in Jasna, the vulnerability under her tough exterior. It takes time, but their connection becomes a big part of both of their stories. It shows the power of having a mentor and how relationships can change.
Like they each give the other what they need, even if they don't know it at first. Okay, let's talk about Dalinar Kholin, the High Prince, dealing with a lot. Visions, a book people don't like, and a lot of inner struggles. Plus, he's got Alethi politics and the Parshendi War.
Dalinar's story is about what it means to be a leader and the challenges of connecting your past with your present. He's haunted by something he did, the Day of Recreance. It damaged his honor and hurt his family. He's trying to fix things, to be better, but it's hard. He's dealing with these visions, messages from long ago that seem to be leading him to a fate he doesn't understand.
His visions are intense, and they're connected to that Way of Kings book he keeps reading. What is that book, really? History, prophecy, philosophy.
All of the above, maybe? It looks like a history of the Knights Radiant, their oaths, and how they protected Roshar from ancient threats. But it's also philosophical, making Dalinar think differently about power, leading, and good and evil. It's like a puzzle, and he needs to solve it. A key to understanding not just the past, but also now and the future of Roshar.
And his sons, Adolin and Renarin, trying to live up to their father, but in different ways. It makes Dalinar even more complex.
It shows how families work and how our past can affect our children. Adolin, he's the warrior, wants glory and to prove himself in battle. Renarin is quieter, likes to study, and seems to have some kind of problem we don't know about yet. Dalinar clearly loves his sons, but struggles with how to guide them, how to keep them safe, but also let them become who they are.
It makes you think about how we try to make our kids like us. And maybe, without realizing it, we hold them back. So we have these three characters all dealing with their own problems and possible futures. How do their paths start to come together in this massive world that Sanderson built?
That's what's so cool about how Sanderson tells a story. He takes these different threads, these individual stories, and starts to connect them. The Alethi kingdom, with its strict rules and desire to conquer, is facing a threat. The Parshendi, these mysterious beings connected to Roshar's natural world. This war, driven by the need for power and resources, is the stage where our characters' stories unfold.
And those gem hearts, they're a big problem. What are they really all about? They're more than just valuable, right?
Right. The gem hearts are ancient. They have power linked to the lost magic of the Knights Radiant. The Parshendi seem to need them for some ritual, while the Alethi want them as trophies to show they won. The fight for these gem hearts drives the conflict, pushing the characters towards their faiths and hinting at a deeper mystery.
Like the gem hearts are forcing everyone to show their true colors, and it sets off events that will change Roshar forever. It's exciting and scary at the same time.
Exactly. And as things happen, our characters are caught in the middle, forced to make choices that will change everything, not just for them, but for the whole world.
All right, before we go on, what really grabbed you about the start of The Way of Kings? Was there a scene or a moment with a character that really stood out?
You know what got me? The scene where Kaladin is just broken. By the bridge runs. He almost gives in to the darkness, wants to quit, let it consume him, but then he fights. He chooses to protect the other bridgemen, even if he has to die. It shows how strong the human spirit can be, how even in the worst times we can find hope.
I agree. It sums up Kaladin perfectly. He's hurting, but he won't let the darkness win. It's really inspiring.
It shows us how even in the toughest spots, there's always hope. And speaking of tough, we should probably talk about Sanderson's world a little more. Roshar, this crazy place with massive high storms. Even the plants and animals have changed to survive it.
It's like the planet itself is another character in the story. It feels alive, connected to everything that's happening. And the magic system, Stormlight, it's tied to those high storms. It's not just some mysterious entity. It's like a force of nature you can feel.
Exactly. Stormlight, it's almost like electricity. Raw energy you can collect, store, and use. It powers devices, even gives people special abilities.
Like Kaladin being able to jump so high and heal others, like a superhero. But using Stormlight takes something out of him, doesn't it? It affects him physically and emotionally. It's not just free power.
That's what I find interesting about Sanderson's magic. There's always a price, a consequence. For Stormlight, it seems to use the person's own life force, their energy. It's a balance. The power and the person using it.
Makes Kaladin's story even more interesting. He's not just learning to use these powers, he's fighting his own demons, things from his past, and a society that says a dark-eyed man like him shouldn't have this power.
He's not your typical chosen one. Kaladin's problems are real. His powers are both good and bad, hope, and a reminder of what's unfair in his world. It makes you think about power and how hard it is to change society.
And I like how Sanderson doesn't shy away from the difficult parts of having power. What about Shallan? It seems like her whole journey is about control, right? Controlling how she looks, how she feels, even her memories. But it's like she's holding herself back, afraid to really deal with her past and what she could become.
Like she's built walls around herself, using her illusions to protect herself from pain. But those walls become a prison, stopping her from connecting with others, from being herself. Jasna helps her with that, makes her see the world differently, question what she believes, and try new things.
Their relationship is so interesting. Jasna is a mystery. She's smart and powerful, but keeps herself closed off. What do you think makes her want to help Shallan?
I think Jasna sees a little bit of herself in Shallan. Sees her potential, her intelligence, but also how vulnerable she is. Maybe she wants to guide Shallan to protect her from making the same mistakes she did.
I can see that. They're both really smart and capable, but differently. Shallan is the artist, goes with her gut. Jasna is logical, driven by facts and reason.
It shows how Sanderson writes women. They're complex, they don't fit into neat boxes, they're not just there for romance or to be rescued. They make their own choices, change their own fates, and challenge their society.
Absolutely. They both push back against what people expect, even in subtle ways. Let's go back to Dalinar. His journey is different from Kaladin and Shallan's. He's already a leader, a high prince. He has to deal with his past, find a way to lead with honor in a world that rewards being ruthless.
It's a study of leadership and what we inherit from those before us. Dalinar isn't a young hero searching for fame. He's a warrior haunted by his past, trying to be good, live up to his ideals, but the world makes it hard. War and the people around him keep testing him.
And those visions, right, they seem to be pushing him towards something he doesn't get,
Yeah.
trying to make sense of it, but it's like he's on the edge of losing his mind.
The visions add a psychological element to his story. Makes you wonder, what's real? Can we trust our memories? And what about the power of belief? Are his visions real prophecies? Or is it just his guilt and trauma?
That's a good point. Makes you think about how what we see shapes how we understand the world. And what about that Way of Kings book? It feels like it holds the answers to Dalinar's visions, the secrets of Roshar's past, and the Lost Knight's radiant.
Almost a holy book, full of wisdom and history. It challenges Dalinar's beliefs, makes him face uncomfortable truths about himself and his people. He's on a journey to find himself as much as he is looking for answers.
It's more than just about him. The book's teachings about honor, justice, being helpful, they seem to connect with Kaladin and Shallan too, even if they don't know it. It's like this idea of oaths, and what they mean is connecting all three of them.
Yeah, that's one of the things I love about Sanderson. He weaves these ideas throughout his stories, connecting the characters and events in surprising ways. Oaths, making promises and keeping them, that's at the heart of the Stormlight Archive. It's about what we promise ourselves and others and what happens when those promises are broken.
It makes me think about the promises we make in our own lives, the ones we don't even say out loud. What do we owe ourselves, our family and friends, our community? What happens when we break those promises?
Those are big questions that Sanderson really explores. He doesn't make it simple. Instead, we see these characters dealing with hard choices, and we have to ask ourselves the same questions.
It's not just good versus evil, it's the messy parts, the stuff that makes you think about what you believe. And speaking of messy, the war between the Elithanae and Parshendi is getting worse. Our characters are right in the middle of it.
The war becomes a test. It pushes them to their limits, tests their strength, courage, and loyalty. It's the stage for their personal struggles, but it also makes you think about war in general, what it costs, how much people suffer, and how violence keeps happening over and over.
And the Gemhearts. They're making the fight worse, making both sides do crazy things. What do we actually know about the Parshendi? They're the enemy, but we don't really know why they're doing this.
That's what's so great about Sanderson's worlds. It's not a simple good guys versus bad guys thing. The Parshendis are a mystery. We don't know much about their culture or what they want. We see how they respect nature, how connected they are to Roshar, but what they do to the Elithai shows anger, maybe even a desire for revenge.
Like there's a whole other story from their side, one we haven't seen yet. Maybe this conflict is more complicated than we think. Maybe there's history between them that's been twisted over time.
I like that idea. Sanderson often surprises us. Things are more complex than they seem, and we have to rethink what we believe, see things from different points of view. That's what makes his story so engaging, makes you think.
I can't wait to see how that plays out as our characters get pulled deeper into this war.
What do you think about how the story moves so far? Does Sanderson do a good job balancing character development with world building? I think he does a fantastic job of blending those things together. Roshar feels huge and complicated, but it's always shown through what the characters experience. He uses their journeys to explore different parts of the world, its history, its people, and how magic works.
He does this cool thing where he switches between different characters' viewpoints. Not just the main ones, but others too, even some who might be considered bad guys. You see the world more completely and understand the conflicts better.
It's like he's putting together a puzzle, using all these different views to create a better, more detailed picture. It makes the reader question their own ideas, see the world from new angles, and realize there's usually more than one side to every story.
Even within those individual stories, he keeps things moving. There's always something happening, some new discovery or challenge that keeps you reading. Kaladin fighting to survive, Shallan searching for knowledge, Dalinar facing his demons. There's always something going on.
That's good storytelling. He knows how to build suspense, leave you wanting more. But he also takes the time to develop his characters, explore what drives them, their fears, what they want. He doesn't just tell us what they're doing, he shows us why.
And the way he writes, it's beautiful but easy to understand. He creates these vivid pictures with words, pulls you into Roshar, but it's not too complicated or full of jargon. It's like he finds the sweet spot between epic scale and those personal moments.
I agree. He has a talent for writing lines that stick with you. And he's not afraid to add humor, even when things are serious. It reminds you that even when things are bad, people can still connect, laugh, find little bits of happiness.
All right, before we go to the last part of our deep dive, what makes The Way of Kings different from other epic fantasies? What sets it apart?
It's how Sanderson combines the world, the characters, and the deeper meanings. He doesn't just create a world, he makes it feel real, with history, culture, and magic that feels amazing and dangerous. His characters aren't just typical heroes, they have flaws. Feel like real people with real problems, like dealing with trauma, prejudice, and what it means to lead.
It's more than just escaping reality. It's a story that makes you think, challenges what you believe, and leaves you wanting to explore this amazing world.
Yeah, it's that wanting to learn more that I love. It's like uncovering this world with the characters, finding out more history and secrets as you read. And those flashbacks to Kaladin's past, man, they're tough to read. He starts out so bright, ambitious. He's got dreams, but then you see how things happen, how injustice crushes him.
Those flashbacks are so important for understanding him. They show us how he became who he is, how those experiences made him see the world and himself the way he does. We see his good heart, his need to protect people, but we also see his anger at those in power who abuse it. It makes his journey even more powerful. He's not just some hero. He's shaped by what he's been through, the choices he's made, and the way his powers start to show up. It's like it's a reflection of that internal fight. He's literally pushing back against things, trying to hold them down.
That's a really good point. His powers are like his resilience. Him refusing to be defined by his past or what others say he can't do. He's fighting gravity, both literally and, in a way, metaphorically.
It's amazing to think about. And then there's Shallan. We don't know her whole past yet, but we see glimpses of something bad, something she's trying to bury with those illusions.
It's like she's broken into pieces, weighed down by her secrets. Her illusions, they're like a shield. They protect her, but they also stop her from facing her past and moving on.
Her relationship with Jasnah is so important for her. Jasnah, even though she's cold and can be harsh, she makes Shallan face her fears, challenges her to see things differently and become who she really is.
Jasnah gives Shallan a safe place, where she can start to put the pieces of herself back together. It's a great example of how a mentor can help and how real connection can change someone.
And Dalinar, he's still trying to figure out those visions, those messages from the past. His journey is different, but just as interesting. He's not starting fresh. He's already a leader, a high prince known for being strong, even ruthless. But he's also carrying guilt and regret, looking for a way to make things right.
He's challenging what it means to be a leader. He's questioning traditions, the values of his society that have caused so much pain. He wants a different way, a path that follows the ideals of the Knights Radiant, those ancient heroes who were supposed to represent honor and justice.
It's cool how those ideas, those concepts of oaths and responsibility keep popping up in all their stories. Kaladin learning to lead and protect, Shallan facing her past and becoming her true self, Dalinar looking for redemption and a new way to be. It's like they're all on paths that are coming together, being pulled towards something bigger they don't understand yet.
That's what I love about Sanderson. He creates these connected stories, weaving together themes and characters in a way that feels natural and like it's all meant to be. There's this feeling of something bigger happening, a plan that's slowly being revealed.
Okay, we talked about the characters, the world, the deeper meanings. What about how Sanderson writes? He's known for creating these complex worlds and magic systems. But for me, it's how he balances that with characters we care about and stories that make us feel something.
I agree. He's great at writing those big, intense scenes, battles, political drama, but he never forgets the human side. He connects those big conflicts to what the characters are going through, so we worry about them, we're invested in their journeys.
And he does it all so clearly. He's not afraid to explain how things work, get into the details, but he does it in a way that's interesting and easy to follow. You never feel like you're in a lecture. It's like chatting with a friend who's, really into this world they created.
And that passion is catching. He makes you want to explore Rosha yourself, every corner of it, to find all its secrets and hidden history. It's a world that wants to be explored, and Sanderson is the perfect person to show you around.
So before we wrap up, what's your big takeaway from The Way of Kings? The thing that sticks with you, even after you're done reading?
The message of hope. Even in the darkest times, when it seems like nothing can get better, there's always some light. A chance for things to change, for people to be better. It's a message that's really important, especially when the world can feel so full of bad stuff.
That's a great way to put it. The Way of Kings isn't just fantasy. It's about being strong, about how we're connected to each other. It's about fighting for what's right, even when it's hard. It's a story that will stick with me, and I can't wait to see where Sanderson takes us next in the Stormlight Archive.
Me too. This is just the start of something huge. I think it's going to be an amazing ride. And that's a wrap for today's episode of BookerCast. We hope you enjoyed diving into it as much as we did. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. Your support means the world, and we can't wait to hear your thoughts on this episode.
Don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and share this episode with your fellow book lovers. And let us know your thoughts in the comments below. We love hearing from you. See you in the next deep dive. Bye for now, and happy reading.